Hala Fadel, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you with us today. I guess everybody in the ecosystem either knows Hala or has heard of Hala.
I hope it's a good thing.
Well, I have good and bad news for you. No,
Okay.
it's very good, and we've asked around. It's funny when we speak about Hala Fadel in the ecosystem, we get a lot of praises that you've done so much for the entrepreneurship in Lebanon. And at the same time, we sense a sense of fear. People are afraid of Hala. Who's Hala? Tell us.
Who is Hala? Hala is passionate about entrepreneurship, about technology, and about changing the world in general, because I feel the values of entrepreneurship are values that would make us live in a better world, because it's values based on teamwork, on learning, on sharing, on constantly working on oneself to become a better person, on starting something that could make it big, on working with others, on generosity. So the values of entrepreneurship are really something I'm passionate about. And I would say I caught the virus of entrepreneurship when I was at Berkeley in the early 90s. I did an exchange program there, and it was the very early days of the internet. And there was this kind of viral energy around where everybody was starting a company. And I felt the same energy when I was at MIT about 5 years later. And this is where I was really compelled to start a company thanks to the MIT Startup competition that was going on campus. And I started a telecom software business that I ended up selling to one of our customers. And this is how I got the idea to start the MIT Arab Startup competition in the region.
Which is a big thing.
Which is a big thing, and which actually reconciled me a bit with the region. When you grow up, you're Lebanese, and you grow up outside of Lebanon, you always have a love and hate relationship with Lebanon. I guess every Lebanese has that. They love parts of Lebanon, but they hate other parts of Lebanon. And if you meet the best of Lebanon, the entrepreneurs, the people who look forward, who want to change Lebanon into a better country or change the Arab region into a better region, you're in contact with them, and then this energy becomes also viral, because you meet people that have the same ambition as you in terms of where you would like to be, and are very realistic about where we are. And being surrounded by this type of people through the MIT Arab Startup competition, through meeting entrepreneurs all day, thanks to Leap Ventures or thanks to this new ecosystem in Lebanon, is really
we'll get back to this. Just to go back, so you did your engineering studies at MIT, I guess?
No, I did math at Berkeley and business at MIT.
And business
I went
MIT.
to the Sloan School.
So how come did you get into the telecom software?
Well, I had partners. I had this idea. I was working I was working in a bank, and I realized how much banks spend on telecom at the time, huge telecom bills. And I thought there must be a way for them to spend less. So this software aggregated the spending of the telecom spending of large financial institutions. And since you mentioned we need to give tips to entrepreneurs, I remember how I got my first customer for this business. I was looking into a directory, a physical directory, a book, and opening the book, the first letter was A, and American Express is a large financial institution. So I just called American Express to try cold calling, got through a person that transferred me to another person. And then all of a sudden I was speaking to someone in charge of telecom spending. And that was a really pain point for them, how much they're spending on telecom. And we sat with him and spent hours designing a solution that would suit them. And this is how Bulio started. Bulio was the name of the company.
Thank you for saying this, because I think there's a key takeout here for everybody, and I see it a lot in the incubator. It's about daring. A lot of times I tell the entrepreneurs, and I remember from my own experience as an entrepreneur, is sometimes you just need to pick up the phone and just call. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just don't do it for reasons that are a bit absurd sometimes. You sold the company. What brought you back to? When did you come back to Lebanon?
I came back to Lebanon in 2003. Actually, I didn't decide to come back. I was forced to come back by my husband, who wanted to go back to his family business. So I kept my job outside of Lebanon. I was commuting.
So
I was
Hala
a
is
fund
Hala
manager.
Frenji Fadel, we have to say.
So I was commuting between Lebanon and Paris because I was managing a fund in Paris, a fund investing in growth companies, a lot of technology and healthcare companies. And I realized that very little was done for entrepreneurs in the region. And so that was 2003. And this is where I got the idea to start something that would be a platform for entrepreneurs. And I started in 2005 the MIT Arab Startup Competition. And then over the past 10 years, I realized that there's a lot of potential when investing in Arab and Lebanese entrepreneurs. And in 2014, I decided to leave my day job as a fund manager and start a fund, Leap Ventures, with two great partners.
Weren't you tempted at one point to work in your husband's business? I mean, it's a big business with a big brand.
Never. I don't know. It's not a field that I'm interested in, like retail and then I like everyone being independent. I don't know. It never crossed my mind.
Let's go through MIT Startup Competition. Maybe you can tell me a bit more what it is.
Yes, so this is an initiative that is related to the university, MIT, to promote entrepreneurship around the world. And we started a chapter for the Arab region. And the goal is to create a platform for entrepreneurs to start their companies along 3 tracks. So we have ideas, so someone who just has an idea and wants to start a company. Someone who has already a startup, so that would be the startup track and wants to expand this startup. And the 3rd track is social entrepreneurship. The social entrepreneurship track has been growing quite fast. I feel, this is an area where we have so many problems in the Arab region and in Lebanon in particular. So solving them using entrepreneurial skills and using technology would be a smart way to do it. And in social entrepreneurship, I feel the entire world is at par. Like nobody's more advanced when it comes to social entrepreneurship than another part of the world. So we do stand a chance given the amount of problems that we have in this region.
But don't you feel a lot of the social entrepreneurs in Lebanon, and we do see a lot coming to us, unfortunately, the business models, I mean, the revenue streams are often very complicated.
So I have a very strong opinion on this, actually. I feel every business should be at some point a social business. It's 100%. The evolution of regular businesses to take into account more social issues, impact, and a sense of purpose, a mission. And at the same time, social businesses becoming more shrewd, I would say, and business-oriented and demanding on their returns will create the companies of tomorrow. The companies of tomorrow, to retain employees, need to offer them more than just a business purpose. They also need some kind of mission to be working for.
But I mean, I fully agree with you because I mean, you started this interview, we started this discussion around the word values, and I love it hearing it from a fund manager because it's very rare to hear it from people in the finance side of things. But a lot of times we hear people, with, I would say, normal startups in brackets, but that tell us, okay, I want to do something social with it. I have a social objective with it. When they go see the funds, they get a feeling that the funds look at them sort of like,
you're wasting your time. You don't need to state it as a goal. So, for example, we're currently raising Leap Fund 2, and Leap Fund 2 is what we call a double bottom line fund, where we also have social KPIs and impact KPIs. KPIs being key performance indicators, just in case someone wonders. But I never do a meeting with a potential investor saying, hey, we're looking for impact. No, we're looking for return first. This is a company that should work and be very successful, and the definition of success is financial return today. But I do believe that in the long term, while doing financial return, you'll do even more financial return if you do have impact. Why? Because impact, if you take the context of Lebanon, implies many different things. The rule of law in Lebanon is not enough to comply with. If you're a tech company and you have a global ambitions, just abiding by the rules of Lebanon is not going to take you to greatness, because the rules of Lebanon are below global standards when it comes to the rule of law, governance, how to structure, even accounting. Accounting-wise, it's just we're not fit to become global companies. Lebanese accounting just doesn't make sense. So creating a double set of rules that would just lift those companies to global standards when it comes to your accounting, your governance, your ambition, your technology, just being fit enough to be able to compete globally is already has already an impact on Lebanon.
No, creating jobs that are well paid is also impact. I mean,
absolutely,
retaining talent, paying talent, it's important in itself. It creates impact.
Yeah.
Tell me more about Leap.
So Leap is an entrepreneur-led growth stage venture capital firm. And entrepreneur-led is very important. So when we start a discussion with an entrepreneur, the three of us, so Henry, Saili, Hervé Cuvillier, and myself, we were both entrepreneurs at some point. Maybe Hervé and Henri for a longer time than me. So when we sit at the table with an entrepreneur, there's a lot of empathy and compassion around the table.
You understand the
pain. We're in their shoes, we understand the pain, we understand the problem, and we're here hand in hand to try and partner to solve those problems. And we always tell them, when you have a problem, we should be the first people you're sharing these problems with, because we're going to solve them together. So it's a true partnership. Some entrepreneurs love this because they feel it's the best way for them to become a global company. And this is the ambition we have when we invest in companies. We're not looking for regional companies. We're looking at global technology companies. So companies that are started in Lebanon, that are based here, but their market and their technology is global. So if you're a regional company...
Are you finding them?
Yeah, plenty of them. Actually, this is what differentiates Lebanon from Dubai. Dubai is a regional platform for companies that want to establish the Amazon of this world, the Deliveroo of this world, the Uber of this world, are based in Dubai and cater for the Arab region. In Lebanon, entrepreneurs are not even looking at the Arab region. They don't know it. Most of them have not traveled to Dubai or maybe they've seen Dubai but never worked in Dubai. And their ambition is actually global. And they're starting companies that are based in Lebanon, but they have as markets probably Europe, Africa, the US, Asia. I can give you examples, of course.
Feel free to do so.
So if you take NAR, which is a company.
It's a beautiful startup.
Yeah, beautiful startup, 2 LAU grads that started, I think, in the accelerator speed. I discovered them actually through a trip that we organized as MIT Enterprise Forum to Silicon Valley. We took them on a trip, and they had a beautiful personality. So I just thought that people with this type of personality are meant to be successful. When you live for 7 days with entrepreneurs and you see how they react to feedback, how, sometimes they had very tough investors looking at their solutions and telling them it's never going to work. And the way they responded and the way they tried to twist their idea and respond to the feedback so that they prove to them that they could be doing something out of this idea is very impressive. So NAR does a software for drones, and their software is for oil and gas maintenance. So they do a lot of image processing through the images they've been collecting, either through a drone or through a normal camera that was flying over pipelines. And they create reports on leakages and problems that they've seen along those pipelines.
It's a major problem for those that don't know. Pipelines runs over thousands of kilometers, sometimes in very dangerous areas, difficult access. I mean, if you need techniques to monitor all this. You need drones are a perfect tool.
And it's very expensive because it's typically done with an airplane or a helicopter. So that costs a lot of money. And if you think of the altitude at which an airplane flies, to be able to detect flaws on oil and gas pipeline maintenance, you can see the value of processing images, high quality images, compared to a human eye.
No, definitely. I mean, NAR is a beautiful startup, and probably, it has global, as you said, global potential. I noted from this three elements you said, and I guess these are part of the elements that allow you to choose startups. I mean, you said about the ability to be global, to have values, and this is very important. And the personality. I mean, to have the personality where you need to be, I guess, to be able to talk to these people. I mean, it's a relationship. It's like getting married. I guess.
Exactly.
Investing.
It's worse.
I'm not sure. What else do you look for in a startup?
So, it's all about the people. All about the people. I see a lot of people coming as a one-person team. That's something I would not fund again. I think it's very tough in today's world to have one entrepreneur that has all the abilities that are required. So coming as a team is very important. A team ideally that has already worked together. A team that has different set of skills that are not redundant. So another company we invested in, Calibrating, in insurance technology, health insurance technology, is a team of 4. One is a product guy, another one is a technology guy, the third one is a scientist very much into R&D, and the fourth one is an industry and business guy. So, for example, I've asked them to do a very small ESOP, employee stock option plan, because I thought the team was complete almost. And this is very rare, but this is something we definitely look for coming as a team. So, but many entrepreneurs would think, so what if I don't have a team? But I'm just alone and I have this great idea. I think the journey of finding, I'd say, a soulmate for this enterprise is already one where you would learn. Learn about what you're willing to give up in terms of personality traits. And chances are that if you like being alone on this journey,
if you can't work with partners, you can't understand your customers. You can't work with investors.
Yeah, it's not much about that. It's more about usually it shows that you're a control freak. That and this is not an issue if you're building something small, but if you're building a global company, at some point you will have to let go of many things and accept not really failure, but the possibility of failure, because others are going to be doing things that you would like to be doing. And this is very important. So let's say you've developed a product and you want to become the CEO of this company, and you're going to hire a product manager, but you've been developing the product so far. So you need to let go of that to someone you don't really know to run the product that is your baby. So it's not easy. So if you're not willing to do it, chances are your company is going to remain small.
Global, values, personality, team.
Yeah.
What else?
Team ambition. Ambition, like global ambition. So global ambition means not only you're willing to let go of some things, that you accept that you're not going to be controlling everything within the company, but it means also recruiting people who are better than you. And that's something that I find is very challenging in Lebanon, because first, people don't believe that they can find people that are better than them and willing to be working out of Lebanon. So putting this faith into an entrepreneur that they can attract someone, maybe a Lebanese who's working, let's say, in Canada or in Silicon Valley, and convince them to come back to Lebanon for their company, is something that is very hard to believe for a local entrepreneur. But in fact, if you look at the economics of it, they could be making as much money in Lebanon as they're currently making outside. Maybe they have a bond to this country. Let's play on this. We have lots of a very big diaspora that at some point considered, either in the past or today or in the future, will be considering coming back to Lebanon because they have family. So let's use this to attract talent back into Lebanon, and attract talent that maybe scares a bit the entrepreneur because they feel they have more experience and they're better than them. But it's a beautiful thing to be able to build a team of people who are better than you. This is the best road to success, and it takes us as partners within Leap a lot of time sometimes convincing entrepreneurs that don't be afraid having someone who's better than you within the company.
But I've heard a lot of startups telling me, look, we're not getting, with our funds, we can't pay the salaries these people require to bring them.
Then they didn't raise enough money. It's all about calibrating how much you need to raise to take you where you want to go. So let's say you're NAR, for example, as they'll be fundraising soon, and they've developed an MVP, a product that is currently working with 2 or 3 pilot customers. So now they need to raise money to create traction for their company in terms of sales and how many customers they have. So they will need to recruit a lot. So they need to calibrate how much they need to raise, depending to what is the next milestone. So that if they need, let's say, 20 customers and $10 million or $20 million in revenues before their next round, they need to calibrate how much they need to raise today to reach that milestone. And very often, in the region in general and in Lebanon in particular, the size of the round is underestimated. Why? Because the mentality with the VCs so far has been to raise money to stay alive, as opposed to raise money to grow fast. And the conversation becomes, okay, so what if you don't grow at 500% or 100% every month, but just, let's grow at 20% and, stay alive for the next 2 years. So then you raise, 500,000, 1 million. But then if you want to compete globally and go attack the US market or the Canadian market in the case of NAR, or the Middle Eastern market, because there are lots of oil and gas pipeline also in the region, then you need to raise much more money to take you there.
It's you said Leap is a growth stage. Can you define? For startups that want to apply or send their pitch decks to Leap, what are you looking for?
So ideally, someone who already has an MVP, so a pilot customer, already has a bit of sales and is right at this inflection point where they're moving from being a local startup to a global startup, and they want to expand internationally.
Are you getting the pipeline you aim for?
Yeah, we're getting the pipeline. But I would say not necessarily from the ecosystem. So the global technology entrepreneurs so far have been bootstrapping themselves because a lot of the VCs in the region are more focusing on copycats of existing business models. So that's not a criticism. It's there's room for both. But I think the mentality of investing early stage in a company that is targeting global market and that is a technology company and not just a replicate of an existing business model is not there yet. So this has forced us a bit to get into early stage. So we do mainly growth stage.
Why this fear? I see it with my own startup. It's when you come with something new and innovative, most of the funds are afraid. They tell you, well, it's too innovative. They prefer Me Too's. Mm-hmm. Why is there so much fear in the region?
So, definitely business models of Me Too's and copycats are safer because you know what to expect, the different milestones you will need to go through to be successful. But at the same time, I think they're short-lived because the international players are no longer interested in buying Me Too's just to have a regional presence. And I think the exit of souks a bit shows that, because there was a ceiling in terms of price that an Amazon is willing to pay for a replicate of their business model. And we'll see more and more of that. Build and operate versus acquire is a dilemma that no longer scares companies. Like they are very much willing to build and operate, to have a local presence. For technology companies, I think it requires, from the venture capital side perspective, different skills. It requires the venture capitalist to understand technology, to understand really the latest developments of technology, and it requires also the venture capitalist to understand global markets. And the skills are not necessarily there in the current ecosystem. So it requires existing VCs to get out of their comfort zone. Whereas if you look at the Leap team, if you ask me or Hervé or Henri to do a copycat, I'm not sure we would be good at that. Whereas our experience is more into global markets and into technology companies. So everybody at the end ends up doing what they know. So we know global technology. So this is what we're trying to do. And maybe other people know copycats. So this is what they're trying to do.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm sending my pitch deck to Hala. What's going to attract Hala's eye? I mean, what's going to make that pitch deck stand in amongst all these?
So solving a real problem, a real pain point, and ideally that is really big. So if you take electricity, I always take this example with Energy 24. Electricity is probably, if you ask...
You're a very good saleswoman.
You walk in the street and you ask a Lebanese person, what is your biggest pain? They're going to say electricity. And if you ask them what, they're going to say, power cuts. So when Antoine from Energy 24 came and said, hey, I have a solution for power cuts in Lebanon, he got my attention, right? Because this is a very big problem. So if you come and you say, well, I have a new bracelet for, increasing your steps and how many calories you're burning every day, it's not that big of a pain. I mean, it could be great, and many people are doing great things with it. But then, the question becomes, what kind of team do you have? Do you have like 15 years of experience in wellness? And so the discussion changes, and it becomes more about the team. I guess there are different profiles of companies. Either you get our attention because you're solving a very big problem, a very big pain point, or you get the attention because you have a great team. And that was the case of Chiron Tech, 4 great profiles. Or you get the attention because you have traction. So maybe you don't have a great idea, you have an okay team, but then your numbers are growing so fast that this is going to catch our attention. So you need, I repeat the 3 elements. So either a big problem that you're solving, an amazing team on a regular problem, or neither a big problem nor a great team, but a lot of traction. And if you have all 3, then it's even better.
And to all the entrepreneurs out there, I would note Hala hasn't mentioned once valuation, hasn't mentioned once. I mean, all this comes later. So, I mean, I get a lot of people come in to us as an incubator or as an accelerator, and I mean, don't focus on this from the beginning. Focus on getting the real.
It's a total turn-off. It's a total turn-off.
She said it, I didn't.
Yeah, it's like, imagine you're recruiting someone and the first question they ask you is, what's my salary? Would you recruit that person? It's exactly the same.
100%. Is Leap opening in France, doing a fund in France?
So the partners of Leap have always been angel investors globally. And we continued our business of angel investing outside of Lebanon to avoid, obviously, conflict of interest with the Lebanese fund. And we have had friends and family and maybe companies that wanted to invest alongside us in our business angel activities. So we started a small fund focusing on Europe. And it has also lots of advantages for the Lebanon Fund because it forces us to be in touch with the European ecosystem, which is really the closest to Lebanon. And because we're a growth stage when it comes to the Lebanon Fund, most likely the next round is going to be led by a European VC. So it's very good to have very good relations with the European VCs. And not only that, but if you're becoming a global company, being based in Lebanon only is not enough. If you have a health insurance technology like Calibrating, you cannot be selling to AXA out of the Beirut office. You need some kind of window either in France or in London for your sales solution to be credible. So the entire team is based in Lebanon, but then they have a rep office or some kind of legal entity for contracts that would be based outside of Lebanon.
Is Leap, I mean the Lebanese side, is Leap 331 funded?
Absolutely, 100% 331 fund.
We don't have much time left, but just to understand a bit more, because one of the typical things we've been hearing about the problems around 331, and we can discuss it really briefly, but is the fact that 331 money hinders your I mean, this is what some people have told us, hinders your international growth. I mean, you can't spend some of the money, I guess, into international. Can you tell us, because a lot of entrepreneurs wonder about this, I mean, it scares them a little bit.
So first, 331 is a wonderful initiative. I want to say this first. I think it took some courage for the central bank to lead this initiative, and I think it's the best thing that happened to Lebanon over the past 5 years or 4 years. So let's get things right first. So let's salute this initiative. Now, in the implementation of 331, there has been some back and forth in terms of what you can do with the money. When it comes to Leap, we don't necessarily have this problem because most of the companies we've invested in already have sales and large operations in Lebanon to justify the spending of this money in Lebanon. But the restrictions in terms of where to spend the money, yes, have been quite... at least have raised question marks among entrepreneurs and companies that have received this money. And I feel it's not necessarily good questions, because if the company is established in Lebanon, a global technology company, for example, I mean, obviously will have to do some spending outside of Lebanon, starting with the ads, Facebook ads, Google ads that they would be buying, computers, iPhones. I mean, all these
PR agencies.
Exactly. Now, having said that, most of the spending of these companies are staff, and the staff should be mostly based in Lebanon, except for sales purposes. So I feel as long as the central bank and people controlling the spending of 331 are pragmatic and realistic about what can be spent in Lebanon and what cannot be spent in Lebanon, then it works. But so the whole thing is to create the right framework so that there's no abuse in terms of where this money is spent, but at the same time you're not refraining companies from establishing themselves in Lebanon, because we've seen a lot of people discouraged from starting a company in Lebanon because of the restrictions around 331. So flexibility in terms of the money invested is really key, especially in today's world. Like money with no strings attached is worth much more than money with some strings attached. So I would put the burden of making sure that these companies bring something in terms of impact to Lebanon on the fund managers that need to create jobs in Lebanon and have a positive impact on the Lebanese economy. But let's not get into the nitsy-bitsy details of, how many dollars were spent in Lebanon.
We have to look at it more generally as a positive growth.
Yeah, and maybe
Lebanon.
over the years. Let's say over 3 years, how much of this money was spent in Lebanon, how many jobs were created in Lebanon. Yeah.
I fully agree. And I do have one last question. It concerns the pipeline. One of the main problems we're seeing in the ecosystem is the lack of I wouldn't even say seed money. I would say pre-seed money in a way. I mean, this initial 50K, 100K that you need to start with them. Now with Kafalat grant, basically the 15K that was available for now stopped. We don't know when this is going to start again. I'd like your opinion on this. How because this is hindering a lot of what's happening in the ecosystem. What's your take, your view, your suggestion maybe on this?
So the early stage money, usually, if you look at ecosystems outside Lebanon, comes from angel money. And angels are typically successful entrepreneurs that are giving back the money they've made through their startups into a new entrepreneur. So my company in Boston was funded by angels initially. And so there's a missing link here because we didn't go through a full cycle yet of companies exiting from Lebanon, entrepreneurs making money and investing again into early stage companies in Lebanon. So I guess this is why this link is missing. Meanwhile, I'm not sure how to solve the issue. I think the burden is also on the entrepreneur to be innovative on how to find the money. I find, and maybe I go back to the fear side of when you said, when you pronounce my name, maybe there's fear with the MIT startup competition. Sometimes I'm really tough on entrepreneurs because you find a lot of people with a sense of entitlement. Hey, I'm starting a company. I can't find anyone to give me $50,000 to start. You need to be innovative. Try and find a customer. Maybe the customer will give you some money, some sponsorship money to start a pilot. Try and get out of your comfort zone to get things started. And then on the investor side of things, we need more angels and maybe more people within the immediate circle of these entrepreneurs, trusting them and taking a leap of faith to start investing in them. I guess it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And the faith will come from seeing successful ventures exiting and people making money out of it before, triggering the seed money and the flow into early stage.
You managed to put in the same sentence leap and ventures. So on that note, we're going to end this interview. Thank you very much, Hala. Very interesting. And,
thank you. And good luck to all the entrepreneurs.
Great words of wisdom. Hala Fadel.